Battle of Antietam. This particular battle lasted for 3 days while the Union and Confederacy, led by George McClellan and Robert E. Lee, fought near Sharpsburg, Maryland. On September 17, 1862, nearly 4,300 soldiers were killed in battle, making it the bloodiest day in U.S. history. September 13, 1862, the Potomac Union Regiment is closing in on Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. Robert E. Lee is aware of this and makes the risky decision to split his army. He then gives each commander a set of plans that will guide them for the next 4 days. One of Lee's men rolled the plans into a cigar, which he then left on the ground carelessly.
Without this simple mistake, the Battle of Antietam would have most likely never occurred. When the Union Potomac found these plans only a few hours later, they were astonished. This gave the Union everything they needed to know in order to obliterate the Confederate forces with an ambush at Antietam Creek near Sharpsburg, Maryland.
The Union soldiers immediately marched onward under the command of George McClellan. They eventually made it to the meeting place where Lee's separated army would confront the Union forces. McClellan ordered his army to set up their artillery on the edge of the woods to prepare for the incoming Confederates. This would cause the Confederate counterattacks to crumble from close range. As the battle was about to begin, Union soldiers waited anxiously. This was a big moment during the Civil War, because without this win for the North, the Emancipation Proclamation would have never been documented. Even with the Union outnumbering the Confederacy 2-1, it was still very difficult for both sides. I definitely believe that the element of surprise and the staggering numbers that the Union had at their disposal gave them a big advantage against the Confederacy. Also at this time, the North's economy was mostly focused on industry, which allowed them to get weapons and tools easier than the South could with their farms and agriculture. Confederates are approaching and the Union attacks. Cannons launch hard-hitting long-range attacks into Confederate territories. This was known as artillery hell, as a total of 500 guns made the battlefield explode with ricocheting shells. The Union troops eventually made progress, but attacks and counterattacks turned the woods and cornfield into a war zone. Bodies became hidden amongst the dust that consumed the area. Within a few short hours, Miller's cornfield is considered to be the bloodiest patch of land in America. September 17, 1862, at 9:30 a.m. The fighting continues near Sunken Road. Here we are on the one and only Sunken Road. Initially it was known as this because of the fact that thousands of travelers and a ton of natural erosion has eroded the surface away to where it is several feet beneath its original level. Now, sadly, travelers were not the only thing walking across this very path. 5,600 soldiers were killed here, and from then on it was known as Bloody Lane. Soon after, Union General Ambrose Burnside had a very urgent need for more troops as his men were having a hard time. They eventually were forced to retreat towards the west bank of Antietam Creek, where George McClellan responded with the famous saying, "I can do nothing more, I have no infantry." These were crushing words to hear for Burnside and his army. After a long hard day of fighting, there is no clear winner, as both armies suffered massive casualties. In total, there were 23,000 men that were injured, and 3,600 that died near Sharpsburg on that day. Even though there was no winner by military standards, people consider this battle to be a Union win. Sadly, George McClellan could have ended this war once and for all by chasing the runaway Confederates, but he noticed that his army was tired and gave up on it. This ended up getting McClellan fired by Abe Lincoln himself. While the outcome wasn't as good as it could have been for the North, it still gave Abraham Lincoln the opportunity he needed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and thank you for watching.